So, we're just going to take, first of all, going to take Prima, which is the Asian Pacific, a very large group. First. So, I just think it's here with the thank you. All this technology with the other educators back home. So that's what we thought we would do to begin with. And what we would like to do in the coming semester is introduce more blended learning, share these apps with our students, and hopefully they will teach us better how to use it because they are faster to learn things than us. And good educators need because we're about 5 or 6 people here and we're about 100 back home, and that's exactly what the other groups also felt. We need to share this, probably have a meeting, a more regional meeting, or maybe an Asia Pacific meeting, or like what we had some years ago, and share all this technology with the rest of the group. The China and the Korea groups thought that they could develop new resources using new technology like Pages and share it with us. And of course, bring in more blended learning and EBP. The other group thought they'd like to be called Cream of Asia by the time we move to the next year. What we would like, how we can ensure that we bring in contact lenses into the program more prominent. We all thought we were already doing adequate credit hours, but we need to probably introduce more new technology to students. If the teaching and the learning space became different, the students would be more motivated and they would probably like contact lenses a little more than other subjects like therapeutics and hopefully binocular vision. And they would, that would help them to bring in prominence into the program and improve industry interaction and try to get the industry to bring in new products to schools. So when they have product launches, not just to have it for practitioners, but also have it in schools so that the students know that this is a very dynamic industry, things keep changing, so they are more alert in terms of learning. So what's IACLE's role? So we have a lot of work for IACLE to enhance journal access for students in resource centers. We already get some journals at subsidized rates. If more journals could be brought into the net, if you could have country-wise resource centers for journals, journal access, so that they can be shared with students as well as faculty, and develop some web-based education among IACLE members. Updates on new contact lens information to members. If as new contact lenses, they may take time to be introduced country-wise, as the industry said, they have their own reasons to phase it out. But if the information could be shared with educators, they feel it's more global, they get an earlier exposure and understanding of a new product before it's brought into their country, so that they can get their students ready. So by the time they are out and fitting, they already have an exposure to new products. We could also bring in webinars, MOOCs. This was a very interesting input from the AP4 group, and they said that if MOOCs could be on basic optometry and contact lens education for patients. If IACLE can do that, so if you have a patient, say, with keratoconus, can somebody from that group actually fill in that? If a patient had keratoconus, we can ask them, instead of just looking up information on Google, to go to the IACLE page to look up and to come back so that they are more informed about the condition. So it helps us to discuss their case and what management plan you have for them, etc. And another interesting feedback was for the educators beyond IACLE. One of the educators believed that like how FAO has beyond, like AO has beyond FAO, like almost everybody is an FIACLE here. And what's next? If we need to take our teaching to a next level, we could probably, IACLE could consider a diplomate level. It could be done over credits by submitting multiple choice questions, by doing research, sharing, developing resource material, and of course the examination like what we normally do. So beyond FIACLE is the next level which IACLE can look into. And of course sharing of lectures, already a lot of it is happening, but maybe individual lectures which have been improvised, they can be shared into a common web pool where everybody has an access to it. So that's what the AP4 group does. Thank you.
Okay, well, that good. Let's hear from the Americans, please. I'm sure there are obviously going to be common themes, but if those are listening later on can maybe comment on that side, yes, reread whatever. But you also can sort of make notes of the common themes, and then maybe that would be a good start up of our discussions later to open to the floor.
Thank you. Okay, do you hear me?
No.
Now? Okay. What about the point of view of Americas after this very meeting? What are we? Oh yes. What are we going to do differently today, next semester, this year, and from today going on? Okay. I think that the first thing that we have to do is to become a leadership team in our region. We, as educators, have to keep in touch and become leaders, not only for our optometry colleagues, but also for others educators in our countries. So we are gonna form a group, a WhatsApp group, Facebook group. I don't know. I think the microphone is more a problem.
Drop it off. Spel ja.
Thank you. The the first thing we have to do is to keep in touch, to keep receiving information from all of us, and to go ahead as optometrists and teams. And we need to improve our skills with all of the applications that we have learned these days. They are completely new for us. They are so interesting, so useful, but we don't think we have the skills to master them today. We need to improve, to study them, and to begin to apply them in our daily activities. And sometimes you don't have enough free time to make all the educational material that we would like to have. So we think we can make students make the information useful for us, to help us to develop all the materials. They are a new generation. They are absolutely younger than we, and for them it's completely easy to use these apps. Sometimes for us it's a little more difficult, so we can work hand in hand with them to help us to develop new educational materials with these applications. Our aim is to increase the interaction in class between educators and students, to improve the clinical skills through proper use of technology. But sometimes it's not how much technology do we have, how much equipment we have. We think that the first thing we have to do is to make a change in ourselves, to change the click, because we need to be absolutely convinced that we have a lot of free things that are completely useful to improve the way we work and the way we live and the way we change the educational system. Also, it is important in a parallel way, not only to become more familiar with the applications, but also in our daily speech, we need to start to talk in an evidence-based clinical system. We need to talk to the students to be suspicious with the information they read. This thing that I'm reading here is true. Who wrote it? When? Where? That the person that wrote this had any interest in the information that he's writing. So I think it's a parallel thing to use evidence-based learning approach. The final outcome is to get the students to make an upgrade from a passive, static teacher-student relationship to a very active, multimedia, role involvement teacher-student relationship through new technologies and new applications. Fourth, do we count with proper infrastructure? It's not easy for us in Latin America to be sure that we will have the Wi-Fi working properly all the time. Maybe for most of the countries that are represented here is something that is for sure, but not always is sure for us in Latin America. So we will need a real involvement of the institutions that we are working in. How can we make contact lenses have a more important role in our institutions and in our programs? One of the things is to make all of the optometry students to go through a contact lens trial, to go to a contact lens examination of their students. And if possible, all of the students of the university, not only the students of the optometry program. And that could also be supported by industry partners. So it's, we think it's a neat thing that we can realize in the middle term. Also, to actively promote contact lens wear at institution trainings. Finally, how could IACLE support us? We think it would be nice that IACLE website keep on having not only the website for educators, but also that could have a site for the students. It were easy for students to download information and to consult information from the website. And we would like that IACLE have some videos, some tutorials for us about the new applications that we have learned these days. Also, the promotion of local activities within the country or within the region to support and to promote the local activities and to promote the activities of the IACLE members within each country or within the region. And also to make awareness of the nationalities. That's all. I don't know, any question? Comment?
We'll take the... And if you want to sit here, we'll take some questions.
Okay.
Thank you. Right, let's move on to the AME, excluding the K.
Yes, I'm representing Norway, South Africa, the Netherlands, Poland, Switzerland, Jordan, Lebanon, and Israel. Spain. And Italy, sorry.
Spain did it.
Well, relating to the first question, what will we do differently today? Our general consensus was that these have been 4 days of immense information. We need to go home. As you can see, I'm still writing on paper. We have to go home, organize what we've learned, digest the information, and decide what to do afterwards. In the Netherlands, though, they are really moving further on. They are trying to organize a program that they have to have ready in 2016 using less classroom hours and more online interaction, and then the rest of the time will be spent on discussions. So they are already a step forward, although we did find that there are differences. Not only are there differences amongst the countries in how the education is done, even in the country itself, the different universities or institutions have different ways of teaching and different levels of teaching, which is also a problem, and they would prefer if it would come to one level, but this will take time. Now, on to the second question, what we will do next semester. Some would like to convince their colleagues in the institutions about the advantages of these new technologies and the new devices, also upgrade their own personal ability to use the devices and all these different technologies. Of course, one must apply evidence-based practice in teaching and make it more and more important. and let it go that way. What to do next year? Next year we should start implementing these new technologies in the classroom with the students. Not all agree that only one of the technologies should be used, but offer a number of the technologies, and then we discuss that, and some said, how can one do all these different technologies? So perhaps certain lecturers use one technology and others use other technologies, and then and offer it to the students. How to ensure contact lenses are prominent in the program. Across Europe, we feel that there is no real problem. The students are interested in the contact lens field, they want to work in the contact lens field, and there are people interested in doing it. Of course, they must be efficiently confident in contact lens fitting, and have a lot of experience and fit as many patients as possible. Now, on to what IACLE can help. We feel that we would like more training, more direct contact with IACLE, and more interactive multimedia courses. As we said, there should be more videos of all subjects on the website. In the local community, each one feels that we should have IACLE more involved and promote it more. We should each go back to our countries and try and impress upon our colleagues the importance and show them that there is an advantage. They should become involved in IACLE. We would like to see more local meetings and workshops with the aid of IACLE. Learn more teaching methods and teaching skills. That's enough. Thank you.
James, before you sit down.
I can stand.
I can
Oh, I think I'm thinking.
Okay, UK and North America.
Great, so the final group, the rest of the world, if you'll have it, North America and the people in the EU who don't really think they're in the EU, so that's the UK and Ireland. We talked a lot about the whole sort of general concept of what we do when we go back and how do we interpret this information. So huge amount of information that we've received, and a couple of sort of anecdotes. One is the use of technologies to support poor students while inspiring the good ones. And I think that's really important, that we use the technology to help us rather than use the technology because it's there, because there's plenty of it and it will continue to change. And the other thing was really to try and get a grip of one or two things rather than try and use everything, because you won't be able to do that. In terms of the things what we'll do differently today or tomorrow, so use software to quiz students about things like the last lecture, allow videos to prepare them before going forward into their labs, to incorporate some of the persuader science into our teaching, that very interesting lecture from Martin. Write down what we need to know. So this is for the students when they're writing down, for example, appointments, to make sure that they're not patients not turning up, because of course patients are really important that they practice. Introducing students more positively, and we talked about what terminology you might use, students, interns, something like that. Also, for ourselves, things like paperless working, which was demonstrated on the first day, and even simple things like displaying your diplomas to show your authority, a non-technology thing, but something we can do really easily. Moving forward then, things like the virtual whiteboard can be used very effectively. Having all of our students wear the badges, ask me about contact lenses. Again, very easy but really powerful. Using evidence bases, a lot of us felt that we already used it, but we maybe didn't make it as obvious to the students that we were using it, so really emphasising that as much as possible. Talking to the students about how they learn. We have the example that they learn more with written notes, for example, but different students will learn in different ways. So students understanding why we use different technologies, different ways, and how they can approach that to their learning. Box on your record cards to make sure that they've discussed contact lenses with their patients. Try the apps, but also then share that with your colleagues, and we'll talk about that when we talk about potential aspects for IACLE to adopt. Shared resources on platforms, again, we can't do everything, so it'd be really useful if we have some resources put up there. Augmented reality by the use of QR codes. So QR codes that then can link directly to resources for the students, and of course a QR code will work whenever you use it, not if you're at the right angle, for example. And links also to company information. Companies have some fantastic resources. Testing assessment of RGP fits through videos. This is something that they're doing in North America with some software called ExamSoft, which allows you to randomize questions and to use videos as part of that. Moving forward into the further future then, interactive lectures using some of this new technology. Again, the emphasis on starting simple, but this idea of evaluate and share. So pick what you're going to do, but then show other people about what works in what circumstances, and particularly raising the profile of things like lens handling, which was shown to us as something really core, but probably most of us have a very small element of our course on that aspect. Things we can do to make the contact lenses more prominent in our programme, so better preparing students for what's going to come, particularly when they leave university. They're very enthusiastic at university, but that's not always kept up afterwards. But things like badges, animations that can support them going in the future. Renee talked about her university where they have a student contact lens society. This is student run. Most of the students are members. It's private, they have to pay for that, and they organise things like lunch and learns and things like that. And again, that teaches them skills of running a society, for example, that gets them very keen on contact lenses, and showing some of the economics of contact lenses, the fact that they are valuable in terms of your practice, and moving potentially contact lenses earlier in your curriculum so students have longer for that to be embedded. Finally, what can IACLE do for us? So communication skills, a module on that, to help students when they're interviewing their patients, for example. So again, some of what we heard in terms of persuasion skills from Steve Martin. Support more frequent and smaller meetings. Again, I know some of the other areas talked about that as well. So it's not just this one big meeting, but we have smaller meetings to take on some of these technologies. Help researchers who are educators and clinicians to become more critical thinkers, and to pool our resources. Again, after this, we're going to hear a little bit more about resources, but we all have pockets of resources which we don't all have access to. More IACLE people who are CPD educators and key opinion leaders rather than just academics, because of course actually CPD is really important for keeping up contact lens enthusiasm and knowledge. We also talked about hearing the student voice, and whether there was an opportunity for IACLE to meet with students at various meetings they go to around the world to make sure the students are more aware of the efforts that are put in, but also to hear what they would like us to deliver. And maybe some work on the IACLE website. There's a little bit of, and some of the emails that come out with a little bit of information overload, so could we better summarise those? And the whole aspect of what technology works in what context. So again, the fact that some of us are already using technology, hopefully lots of us will go out and use some of this technology based on this meeting. Actually, what works, what doesn't work, sharing that with others so we don't all have to learn right from the beginning. And Etty is now going to come out and share an IACLE resource, which some of us weren't aware existed.
So meetings like this, we want to share. I think that's probably the biggest thing that we get out of it. And we talked a lot about evidence-based as well. So I think that this is a resource that everybody can use, and I'd like to make you aware of it. Back at IACLE in North America, we also deal with the same issues that you all deal with around the world. And our students want to talk to the patients and tell them things about contact lens wear. So don't use tap water, wash your hands, this and that. And we kept saying, we keep repeating ourselves over and over and over again. Are the students really giving the same instruction to the patients every single time? And are we every time that we go in? And so we wanted to build a resource that was absolutely generic. It's not branded, but we wanted it to be evidence-based, and I want to show you where to go. So this is the IACLE website. It's iacle.org. And when you come down to the bottom right here, there's a whole bunch of resources. And I want you to just kind of scroll in here. Let me just fill this up. And you're going to have two resources that I think you can use immediately. So one of them is called the Healthy Habits Soft Contact Lens Guide. If you pop this up, you're going to see a guide that you can download and use for your students to give out to patients. What we did, because in North America you have English schools, French school, and also a Spanish one in Puerto Rico, this is already in French, English, and Spanish for you. So right here on the left, you could choose your language, and you download the version that you need. So French, English, or Spanish. So I just want to show you in big, if I went over there and took a look at the English one, every single point that is written here has a little reference number. Because we went and looked at the literature to back that statement up. And this is evidence-based. So this would be a really good resource right away to use with your students. So we have things like don't use tap water. We also have a little area where the practitioner, oops, I'm sorry, I'm used to a map. You have two little points that you can add. What solution is the person you're recommending? And at the bottom one here, because there's a lot of people that wear their lenses improperly, maybe they're wearing a 2-week lens, but they extend it to a month. We want to make sure that you just tick that little box, or you teach the students to tick that little box. And they give this paper to the patient. And it really is very visual. It tells them not to top off, not to share contact lenses, don't leave the bottle open. If they want to sleep or nap in it, to ask if those lenses are suitable. But again, every single statement has a little reference number, and on the second page, you have all those references. So I think it's quite valuable to use. And if you also still go to the resources, you have another one for GP lenses. So those are just two resources you can use right now. Thank you.
Okay, so actually there have been some common themes, maybe directed slightly differently. My point of view, the sharing between educators, and I must admit it is so good and important that we do actually talk to each other within regions as well as in a meeting like this when we're talking over the whole of the world. And if I speak for my own region, then I know that Spain and the Iberian Peninsula got together recently and had a good meeting, in which they organised themselves, and I will always give help and support to set those things up. Same way now talking to Africa to actually do the same. Find some new members, get together, talk to each other. Even if you just start around the table and just talking to each other about what you teach and how you teach, and see what you can learn and go bigger from that. Sometimes industry helps. They had our French-speaking members over to one of the resources one of their places, Alcon did for us, and actually got people together. So we very much would help anybody who wants to share and feels that they are out of a limb, would like to know, and it's easier to go to a closer country and set something up. So communication between educators seems to be a very important thing. The other thing is the act, and we've, I should think by now, slightly overloaded. We're going to go back and sort of let's just take this quite carefully. And the other thing that seems to come across is if we all start using different things, and then it'd be very nice if we can all tell each other of our experiences and actually what works for us and what doesn't. And then we can see, okay, what didn't work for them actually worked for me, and this is why. So that type of, again, communication. Talk about our patients, communicating to our patients. Maybe we need to be better about communicating between ourselves. So, that type of communication seems to be also an important factor, because we have learned so much these few days that we can't just take all that in. The other factor is with the students, and this is also this concept of them appreciating lenses, maybe by wearing lenses. I mean, I must admit, in the UK, we are lucky, our students get vouchers for a supply of lenses, and they can get anything. In other words, they can get Plano colours, just to go have lenses to wear when we go clubbing, just to see what it feels like, good and bad points of wearing lenses. It's so much easier than when you say to them about talking to their patients about things that crop up, that they've experienced things. And I would say at my age, me experiencing as a presbyo, I can speak so much easily to my patients than any student or young practitioner can, because I know what they're talking about. So even just from wearing contact lenses, they do need to experience them, and anything that we can do and arrange with industry in our different regions to actually allow our students to get lenses would be always good news, because that promotes things in their mind. Even in the UK, you get some people wearing widgets, quite happy, gosh, you can see, yeah, well. And the other thing is, I got the impression about the multimedia side, which is something obviously very much needed, and as Etty's commented, there are resources out there that IACLE maybe needs to show and coordinate. So those are the things that particularly came through to me for what everybody said. So now I'm opening up to the rest of you to actually have any comments, any experiences, any sort of nuggets of information that would be helpful before we all leave this amazing meeting we've had, which I think we've all very much enjoyed. Yeah. So, anybody like to say?
Thank you very much. It's one of the best meetings I have attended, and I'm thankful to the IACLE leadership for making it happen. I have one observation, suggestion that there are many countries in the world who have the resources to run the optometry programs, but yet they are not running the optometry programs for some reasons other than having limited resources. So I think what IACLE can do is sort of advocacy at health policymakers level, where so that this part of this segment of quality care, I mean, it should be available to everyone. And this, if some of the countries have not, so this means the patients have been deprived of such a quality, this aspect of the quality eye care. So I would suggest that advocacy should be part of IACLE leadership, and to help start optometry programs in those countries where they are not existing at the moment. Thank you.
Did anybody need experience that? I mean, I had a message from a teacher in Ethiopia, and he, in a sense, was saying he hasn't got any lenses. Where does he go to get lenses for his clinics? And one of the things that struck me, maybe through industry, is, I mean, I can go around and speak to people, and I've already got one contact for him, but actually from industry, and I know professional services do change, but if we had a list of people in the area that they could contact, so we could just say, okay, this is the person that you need to contact about how you maybe get some lenses for your, into the clinics and things like that. That would be a very simple way of and getting good interaction between industry and our members who are, don't quite know where to turn if they haven't got that sort of background. Has anybody else got any experience that sort of thing? Yeah, it was overload. Right, any other questions? Or any of our panel, if you need some.
There are not any comments. I am talking about specific, for example, Bangladesh. Bangladesh is a country, it's a vast country, and yet there is, they don't like to start hospitals. That's what I actually wanted to say.
It's about the optometry program.
Yeah. So that's what I myself know. So I know that there's a great need for the community to have this sort of care, but it's not existing. So that's what I was saying, that if I could somehow do some sort of advocacy at a certain level, or some sort of thing.
I mean, one aspect is the World Council of Optometry, who would help start optometry programs, and then we would, you want to say something about?
Yeah, but there's actually a group of Bangladesh optometrists and ophthalmologists in the Manchester region who have been in touch with me over the last 6 months, and they're planning to open a school in Bangladesh. I'm due to meet them over the next few days, actually. So there are activities happening, but there's probably something which is wider than the scope of IACLE, and probably more, as Juliet says, for the World Council of Optometry to be involved in. But yes, there certainly will be activity. Thank you.
That's good.
Yes. Yes.
Just reinforcing what a great meeting, but also the biggest challenge of the meeting being the amount of information, as I said to you, there's a huge number of apps. Like, as a suggestion to IACLE leadership, you are currently going through the process of finalising the curriculum. Why not take one part of one of the modules, and each member say, I will create 3 slides, or 3 interactions, I guess, we shouldn't use the word slides, 3 interactions using one of the apps that we've learned about over the last couple of days. Because the problem is, you try and look at the whole, and a number of us have said over the last 2 days, wouldn't it be great if we didn't have to do anything? We could spend all our time using the app, playing with this stuff. Well, we all do have to, we all have our day jobs, and I just think it would be a great initiative, even if it's just how to fit a soft lens, how to put a lens in the eye. Try using, try just using some of the technology and then share it. Then I think you'll be in a better position to see which ones work and which ones don't.
Yes, so on the basis of our new modules, we're hoping, every time something new comes out, since we can adjust them. So from this meeting, if people went away and started, as you say, using that technology and then fed in, it's a cloud basically, and what we're doing is sharing information. And I think maybe we just need to get better at sharing information, and always, there are no other issues about it, so that we can all benefit. And as you quite rightly say, you can't get one person doing all these things. It has to come from everybody. And we are, as
I think what Ian was suggesting is really listening to Steve Newman's lecture, using the power of persuasion. You all have something now, so now we want something back. You will be rewarded.
Even if it's just 2 slides, 2 interactions, don't make it complicated,
No.
otherwise it'll never happen.
Well, email everybody with a request.
Anybody else? I think it's attention overload or something.
Just one last thing is that people, because of attention overload right now, may not think of something, but I think the evaluation sheet would be extremely helpful for future meetings, so make sure you send that in. But if you have an idea later on, then I'm sure that you can send that to IACLE as well.
When you start around, When you sat around with everybody, did you find that you had sort of common thoughts, or was anybody off the wall or a bit different came in your groups? Is that a bit personal? Okay, stand up and say.
One of the comments from the Latin American group was, okay, there are like few people that got the privilege to come here and learn all this amount of information. But how do we move ahead? Because, you know, enthusiasm seems to just wash it very quickly after this start meeting. You just go back to your routine mechanical day. So what they were proposing was to create a group in the region, because they have been, you know, got the privilege to come here, start running a few programs or come with a plan in how to develop resources and then share it with their colleagues. And then, so that's, I think, a good initiative to keep things moving and keep things happening on the region based on the experience that I've been exposed. So maybe that's something that IACLE might need to think in the next few days or weeks on how we can establish like pivotal groups in different regions that are the ones driving this effort, so everyone can benefit from this. And it comes, I think, from the same line of thinking from Ian. How do we keep moving? If we ask people, send 2 or 3 slides, it might happen, it might not happen. But if there's ownership on the effort between the regions, and then we can share these, maybe it's a better way to move ahead.
Yeah, very good point. I think the microphone went off a bit. Did everybody hear? But the concept of actually what those of us who are here have learnt to go away and speak to our other members within that region, to inform them, encourage them, and to build from that, so we don't just all go home and think, oh, that was very nice, and I'll try whatever, and then that's it. But we actually grow from that. I mean, the other factor is, I suppose, is how often one can have these sorts of meetings, and it's been a long time since we had the last one, and although it's a lot of work, it was so nice that there was more of a plan in terms of years. It's not 15 years or something like that. It's something less than that. But there's a very good point that we should all be going back to our regions, I suppose I'll speak like that as a person to my region, to keep up momentum of what we've learnt.
It might help. I find it very interesting when you've said we want to actually use some apps, and I think Ian's comment was exactly right. Try not to overdo anything, keep to 1 or 2 and just work on 1 or 2, and work within your comfortable understanding of that material. That's my big advice to anyone. Don't try to do everything. If you are interested, and I'll do my Nearpod hat on here now. If you are interested in Nearpod, they have a very good presence in South America, and they would support you in South America. They also have a Spanish contingent, so it's worthwhile remembering. They are based, obviously, in Florida and South and North America. One thing that was described very quickly in the first part of the Nearpod, remember when they saw all the library and all the lessons, and there was a library at the bottom. That was a private library. There's an opportunity for all IACLE members to have a private library. So you could share maybe your bits of Nearpod from South America to Australia, or all in the same library that only your members could see. That way you could share those information. That could be possibly set up for you. That's part of that sharing idea that you've actually identified here. So that's only one of the apps. I know we've done lots, but that's something that I know of and I think could happen and help you with some of the thoughts. Okay?
Thank you. Anybody else want some last words? I think they're overloaded. Phil, you're going to.
Thanks, Jude. Thanks for an excellent session, everybody. Thank you. Okay, we're drawing to a little bit close. I've got a few items of housekeeping. I thought we might show the photographic highlights of the meeting before we formally close with Shazad. So, firstly, there was a questionnaire in the bag at the start of the week. Grateful of everybody. I know we've had quite a few in. One of Steve Martin's persuasion things was to tell you that a lot of people have already filled these in. So please do so. What else? Yeah, please remember to return your iPads. Bonnie, where are we doing the iPads? Where should we do the iPads? Return. Okay, at the end of the session, please return them outside. Carmen, have you lost your bag? Carmen? It's lost? Carmen has lost her bag. It's in the second row somewhere. Now the thing is, it's one of the IACLE bags that every single one of us has. So that's a bit tricky, but if anybody if there's a rogue bag, was there anything identifiable in it? How would we know it was yours? It's got a scarf in the back, okay? I think we lost a scarf as well.
Yeah.
There are 3 people who are yet to check out, so please. Florencia, yay. Baraya, Muhammad Ali, and Srikanth and Pathy. You need to check out, please. Check out the hotel. We'll leave your key. Okay. Well, yeah, if you're staying more days, that seems reasonable. You don't check out. Bonnie has lost her mouse. What does it look like, Bonnie? Whiskers and tail. We have, on your way out, if you like them, these Google cardboards, they got a little bit battered, but they can certainly be put back in shape, glued, if you'd like one of these. We've only got 10, but if you think you'll use them, please take one. We have a few pads and a few IACLE bags, if you'd like one, and probably about 20 shirts, if you'd like a second one. Only take one if you think you'll use it. I think, the coaches. I've got a blue scarf, but no bag. Is that yours, James? That's James' bag. James' scarf. Okay, we have some coach information. Okay, so. Yeah. Okay, if you're getting one of the coaches, please listen very carefully. There are 2 coaches, one of which is going by the Trafford Centre. Yeah, that train's the coach that's going by the Trafford Centre will then proceed to Liverpool and will drop off at these 4 places in Liverpool. Now, this is all online, so you can look at this afterwards. I'll give you the link. But it's dropping off here at the Z Hotel, or the Z Hotel, if you insist, I suppose. What's this one? The No Hotel, the Ibis and Hilton hotels, and then there's a drop-off here in the sort of docks area, which is where the convention centre is, the Staybridge, Holiday Inn, etc. Now, they can't stop at every single hotel that we are collectively staying at, so you need to work out which of these is nearest for your hotel. There you go, your brain's still working. I don't think any of us in the room have an encyclopedic geographical knowledge of Liverpool, so I'm not sure we can particularly help beyond this. So that is Z, No Hotel, Ibis and Hilton, and then the docks area. Okay, this is available in the web link, I'll give it to you in a moment. Those going direct. There are also 4 drop-offs. The Titanic Hotel. They don't serve drinks with ice. Days Inn, the Hampton, and then the docks areas, Staybridge, the Convention Centre, Holiday Inn, and Echo Arena. Okay, now you can say I want to look at this later on at my own leisure. If you go to the show notes document, wc3shownotes.com, there is now on page 3 the hotel drop-off information, and you click on the link and it'll bring up the map that I've just shown you. It's an interactive map, so you can book your own hotel, see where it is in relation to the drop-offs. In the show notes document. Any more housekeeping comments? That's all I've got. Shall we watch some photos? Ian, we might need the lights if you don't mind. An appropriate song from Manchester. Thank you.
Today's gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you. But now you just somehow realize what you gotta do. I believe that everybody feels the way I do about you now. Back when you were somebody that's funny eyes down. I'm sure that I'm wrong in every eyes
I want to give a very special big thanks to Lewis Williams for doing all that. Thank you so much for all the sessions. You did pay attention to everything, so I really appreciate that. It's a great way for us to archive what's gone on. If anybody has photos, we have a Facebook page. You need to find that. You search for the name of the meeting. Please consider uploading your photos to that via Superb Archive, so that when we next convene in 5 or 10 or 15 years' time, we'll have that to reflect on. I'll hand over to Shazad just to say it's been a pleasure taking a leading role really in putting together much of the program. So I hope everybody enjoyed the meeting. And Shazad, over to you to close the meeting.
Thanks, Alex. Thank you.
Shut up, what?
That was a big party. That's where Craig was sitting. Yes. Either it was meant for Craig or he left it. Another big thank you to Alex and Siobhan, because they've worked really tirelessly hard to put the notes together. Obviously, thanks to Phil, thanks to Bonnie. Ian Miller has worked tirelessly hard with putting the program together. And I think one of the comments that Philip wanted to me, he was going to do it again, which I don't know if he's planning to do this again. He was saying that maybe we need more people like Ian and the educational experts rather than the content lens experts, because really we learned a lot from you and your colleagues, so thank you very much. Also, big thanks again to our sponsors, J&J, Cooper Vision, Alcon. Just the hardcore have been here to the end, so thank you for staying. Again, big thank you to all the delegates who've come a long way, and some of you will see over the next few days at the BCLA. So hopefully we'll have some more interaction, we'll have some more touch points, interfacing, we'll enter each other's markets, or whatever phrase, we'll penetrate. Maybe not, okay. Those of you what going on, also Judy, could you join us?
The IACLE delegation, we'd just like to thank you all. You went to, the IACLE delegation would like to thank you all. You went to such great lengths, Phil, and Bonnie, and Shazad, to facilitate us being here. It's been an amazing meeting. There's no way we could get this many people without your assistance.
I think that kind of really ends the session. Thanks to World Congress. Thank you again. Thank you to everybody who's come along and has organised. Thank you to you for taking part. I hope there have been some take-home messages. I hope we are going to be doing things differently, and I hope you have noticed some of them, as Ian quite nicely said, and David also said, let's use a couple of points on at least a couple of slides and try and make some changes in the next few years. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.